My God, plumbing's terrible. These guys are horrible. Like, they put me down every day, they call me names, they throw things at me. No.
I'm Kenny Molotov, licensed plumber, professional magician, and entertainer. On this channel, I go through the ins and outs of my career in plumbing. I take you through a day in the life and we talk tools, theory, and mindset. I'm trying to give you an arsenal of knowledge and an online resource so you can take this trade head on and find yourself successful on the other end. Click subscribe, hit that bell notification, and let's talk pipes.
Peeps, Kenny Molotov here. Check out MolotovPlumbingAcademy.com for courses specifically designed to help you in your apprenticeship. So today I wanted to tackle a pretty big subject that's going to be really important for the apprentices out there, because I find that there are some common themes that are roadblocks for apprentices where they cannot progress any further, and I'm hoping that by knowing these sorts of issues that can arise, you'll be able to combat that anytime you sort of see it. So let's start off with the first one, which is you do not adopt the culture of the trades. This is a pretty major one when it comes to apprentices, because one thing that I've noticed over the years as a mentor is that as the apprentice gets into the trade, they're excited, but what happens is they don't adopt the things that are necessary for the company to want them to come back on the job site the following day. So for example, they don't show up on time. I have talked to apprentices personally where by the second or third time that they were late on the job site, and I'm not talking about a significant gap of time, maybe they were 10-15 minutes late, by the second or third time the foreman is already fed up and they kick them out right away. So the problem is that, remember, we are a task-oriented career, and you being on time helps the task at hand. If you are at any point slowing down the task or stopping the task, that's where it's a major red flag for the company, and they don't want you around because of that. Showing up on time ensures that you're part of the task finishing process. So you have to be there minimum 15 minutes before. Ideally, you're there even a bit earlier, because you got to remember, when you get onto the job site, it's not just getting there, talking to friends. Sometimes you got to help people move things. Sometimes you got to load the truck. Sometimes you got to sit down and do a material list with your journey person. So there's a lot happening behind the scenes right before you guys dispatch and go out onto the field, sort of thing. Another major thing that you got to be worried about is if you're caught on your phone a lot of the times, especially if you're on the job site. So whenever it's lunchtime or sort of down times, pulling out your phone isn't a major deal. But whenever you're on the job site, especially if you're in the middle of a task, pulling out a phone is a major problem, because number one, you are not aware of what's going on the job site. Most importantly, we're talking about your safety and the safety of your journey person. Remember, you and the journey person are a team. You are doing everything in your power to make sure that your journey person goes home in one piece, and vice versa. You're making sure that you're going to get home in one piece as well. So being on your phone completely distracts you of being able to filter through the different dangers that are on the job site. If your journey person's on a ladder and you're not securing that ladder and you're on your phone, that's a very big problem. If somebody gets injured and other people find out that you were on your phone, that's a very quick way to be let go of that company. So remember, showing up on time is part of the culture of being in the trade. Being off your phone is part of the culture of being in the trade. Another thing that I just want to kind of touch upon quickly is being oppositional when people are asking you to do things. This is something I brought up in previous videos, but what you got to remember is that you're working with your journey person. They're going to be asking you to go get things, right? You're going to be asked to do some labor-intensive stuff. Sometimes you'll be cleaning, sometimes you'll be digging, sometimes you'll be running to the truck, sometimes you might even be going to the coffee shop to pick up coffees. But at no point do you ever want to come across as oppositional or ungrateful or that sort of vibe, because all of a sudden there's like an emotional burden to ask you to do things. So for example, if somebody asks me to go get a tool from the truck and I roll my eyes and I huff and puff, well, you know, it just becomes a little bit easier not to ask me in the next time, which means that I have stopped being useful. I've stopped helping the task finish. I have become an obstacle to getting the task finishing. So that's something you got to keep in mind. You overall have to be easy to work with. If you're easy to work with, people want to work with you. You know what I mean? They want to shoot the breeze with you. They want to find out more about you. And if they know that they can turn to you and ask you to do something difficult in your game, it is very easy to ask for you again the following day, because now all of a sudden I know you're game for whatever, I'm game for whatever, and that makes the task way faster in the long run. So the second way that I've noticed plumbing apprentices fail is that they don't sort out major academic weaknesses before going to school. This is a really difficult thing because you have to be self-critical in order to be able to do this. But one thing that I've noticed over the years is that I've had a couple of friends that were in the apprenticeship program with me, and they had some sort of either learning disability or they had a very major weakness in one of the elements, like the math element, etc. And what I've noticed is that if those individuals failed that plumbing block and they had to redo it, it was extremely discouraging emotionally for them. So that the next time that it came around to do their block again, they had anxiety about going to school. You know what I'm saying? Because they have already felt the failure once, they really don't want to feel it again. What I think is important for you to note is that we all have weaknesses, and these are things that we have to work on in order to progress in our career. Another thing that you have to consider is if, let's say, you have a learning disability, you have difficulty learning in a classroom setting, this is something that you have to figure out strategies in order to be able to perform well when you get to school. So I've had friends that had learning disabilities getting into school, and they wanted to honorably try to avoid bringing up the fact that they have a learning disability, and that really made their marks suffer. What you have to do, in a sense, is embrace the learning disability, go to professionals that understand the hurdles that you have, and that can also give you strategies to circumvent these hurdles. That's the whole point. It's not to pretend we don't have learning difficulties. It's to figure out what our learning difficulties are and then work specifically on them, and that is not something you want to do when you get to your first day of class. You want to do that before you get to class, you know what I'm saying? By doing that, you have now 8 weeks to perform on these tests, and all that work leading up to school is what's going to be able to get you through there and make the difference in your marks. So the third way plumbing apprentices fail is they do not push the companies that they're working with to register them as apprentices. I don't mean become very annoying on the job site and constantly hound your workers and also your journey persons or your boss. But what I do mean is that as you're getting into a company, there has to be a conversation of, are you going to register me as an apprentice? Is that something that you're planning to do? How many licensed journey persons do you have? By finding out that answer, you're able to know if they're actually able to register you, because if there's one licensed journey person, then they are only allowed to register one apprentice. So you need a minimum of 2 journey persons if there's already an apprentice signed up in order to sign you up as well. Do you know what I'm saying? So these are conversations that you have to have. You have to find out, okay, so they have a registered apprentice. What year are they in? Are they in year 2? Because now you still got to wait an additional 3 years to get registered as an apprentice. Or are they on year 5 and they're writing their CFQ? Because if they're in that stage, that means that once they pass the CFQ, that is your opening to get in. And not only that, once they pass, there's an additional license journey person at the job site. Now you can even register an additional apprentice. So a lot of good things come by asking these questions. And what I've noticed is that some of the plumbers that I mentor, they just either slipped through the cracks or they did not have those conversations early enough with the companies, and they kind of got brushed off, you know, like people were just saying, yeah, we'll register you down the road. We'll keep registering you down the road. And that was the constant conversation. So what happens now is that you're a 4th year apprentice, in theory. You have 4,000 hours or 5,000 hours under your belt. That's great in regards to your skill, but you have 0 hours of the in-class training that you're supposed to get done in order to continue on in your apprenticeship sort of thing and to level up. Your apprenticeship now becomes a much longer ordeal. If you started your apprenticeship on day 1 and you got registered on day 1, it takes about 5 years to get your apprenticeship done. With some of the individuals that don't get registered right away, I just find that at some point they never get registered, or they get registered like 7 years down the road, and at that point they're so frustrated with the idea of having to go to school to learn the things that they already know. They've seen so many people bypass them in their career, other people that came in after them, that they just get overall discouraged about the entire ordeal, and then they never end up getting signed up and registered as an apprentice. We want to avoid that at all costs. We want to make sure that you are having the conversations early. That way, when it comes time to register you as an apprentice, you are doing your leveled schooling, and then you you are eventually challenging the final exam. We want to get that ball rolling because most importantly, let's say you have a company that keeps brushing you off. You want to early in your mind have a conversation with yourself, which is, do I stay with this company? Because I think they're yanking your chain. If they're yanking your chain, I don't know if they are really interested in having you level up. And if they're not interested in having you level up, is this the appropriate company for you to be at? Because they're not considering what you want in your future for this career. So the fourth way plumbing apprentices fail is that they don't have their paperwork up to date. This is a major one, and I myself am guilty of hating paperwork and not having my paperwork in order, but there are a few things that you have to be stubborn about. You have to do everything in your power to maintain your pay stubs. By maintaining your pay stubs, you are able to then prove later on the amount of hours that you've worked. Because God forbid you get let go from a company. They don't want you anymore. You're not going to get a reference from them either. Something like that goes on. You go to the next company, and the next company wants to register you as an apprentice, but they're going to start you as a first year. But you sit back and you have 5,000 hours under your belt, and you're like, wait, I'm definitely not a first year. How do you prove that to them? It's just hearsay at this point. But if you're able to go get your pay stubs, show them to them, you're able to show, whoa, this person has 5,000 hours, which makes them like a third, fourth year apprentice sort of thing. So by doing that, you are able, first of all, to get at the appropriate spot of your apprenticeship once you get registered. And second of all, that might also be a pay bump for you. That's what you got to keep in mind. Plumbing company owners pay the apprentice according to the amount of work that they're able to do and also the amount of hours that they have under their belt, because those two things coincide. It is very rare to find somebody that's exceptionally gifted with tools that hasn't put in those hours. Do you know what I'm saying? That's one thing you have to keep in mind. Keep your paperwork in order. It's going to go a very long way for you. And that way, you don't get discouraged at the idea that you have to start from scratch, year one, 0 hours at the next company that you go to. And this is especially true if you're traveling through provinces, changing your location entirely. If you worked in BC and you worked for 4 years as an apprentice, if you bring those hours over to Ontario, we are able to document those hours. But if you can't, then we're going to consider you a first year, and you don't want to do that. That's going to be extremely frustrating on your part. So the fifth and final way plumbing apprentices fail is a little bit of a strange one, but you have to consider this for a second. One way that I think plumbing apprentices fail is that they don't get out of bad companies fast enough. And what I mean by that is that, let's say you have a company that's promising you to register you as an apprentice, but a couple months goes by, 6 months goes by, a year goes by, 2 years go by. That is, again, going to stop you from progressing in your career. And the problem is that, like, the relationships might be great between you guys, but if they're not helping you in your career and that is your career goal, then you have to consider, why don't they want to help you in this endeavor? Why don't they want you to succeed? Is it because they don't want to give you top dollar for your work? Because once you're a licensed plumber, they got to pay you more, right? You are at the top when you're a licensed plumber. Maybe they don't want you to get there. Maybe they want to continue paying you $20 an hour or whatnot. So that's something to keep in mind, and that's something to consider. If they are not serving your needs, you have to politely approach them and say, listen, here's my plan. I want to be a licensed plumber. Can we register me? Are we ready to do that? If you hear a no, then you say, okay, at what point can we register me? If they say 6 months from now, you bring up that conversation 6 months from now. If they continue pushing that, then you have to start having a conversation with yourself, as in, maybe it's time to get out of here. You know what I'm saying? Another manifestation of getting out of bad companies early is, let's say there's a bullying element that's taking place in the company, and you are just being hounded every single day. People are putting you down, and it's become a game for everybody, and people find it really fun to do their best to make you feel terrible. You got to get out of that company for a couple of reasons. The first thing is that they are painting the trade in an extremely bad light. They are making you associate the trade with something bad, when in fact the trade is fine, the trade is neutral, but they are extremely negative, and that company is extremely negative. It's very hard to be able to make that distinction when those bad things are taking place. When those bad things are taking place, you're sitting back going, oh my God, plumbing's terrible. These guys are horrible. Like, they put me down every day. They call me names. They throw things at me. No, plumbing's not terrible. It's just a line of work. What's terrible is the culture that was created there, the fact that the leadership does not put people in place. That's what's terrible. And you got to get out of that as quickly as possible because it is going to shape you. That's one thing that people don't consider. When you're in a bad spot, that bad spot is going to shape the way your psyche works. It's also going to shape your habits. It's going to potentially give you anxieties. It's going to potentially make you bitter and angry. These things happen over a long duration of time. And the longer that you're in that element, the worse it's going to get for you. So it is in your best benefit. If you want to be the best version for the people that you love, you got to get out of there. You got to go somewhere where there's positivity. You got to go somewhere where they're eager to teach you. They're interested in watching you grow. That's where you got to go. It is your job to figure out which company is going to facilitate that for you. That is most important. So peeps, a lot of food for thought. I really hope this video was useful for you because again, I think it's terribly heartbreaking when apprentices don't get to the end of their apprenticeship. And these are the 5 ways that I've noticed that apprentices have been slowed down over their career. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button down below and that bell notification so you know exactly when we're getting videos. Smash that thumbs up, share with friends, and I'll see you plumbers very soon. Kenny Molotov, guys. Peace, baby.